Hello and bah humbug. Today we'll be making Mujuddara. Still popular today, Mujuddara is an ancient lentil dish cooked with either rice or bulgur wheat that takes the power of onions to an entirely new level. Mujuddara translates to pockmarked, referring to the lentils among the grains resembling the scarring left on one's face by acne. Not the most appealing moniker, but hey, it was medieval times. Who are we to judge? Perhaps their nomenclatures involved humor more so than today when it comes to food. And maybe that's a good thing. I feel like if this dish were invented today, it would have some pretentious name like vegan caviar and would be sold for $20 a plate to rich people. No thanks. I'll have the pockmarks, please. Although ancient, the first written recipe for Mujuddara wasn't recorded until the medieval era in 1226 AD by Muhammad bin Hassan al-Baghdadi in the book Kitab al-Tabikh, which translates to the Book of Cuisine. It's also been called the Book of Dishes, the Book of Recipes, and the Book of Delights. However, al-Baghdadi was far from a peasant, and his version of the dish required meat, which was a luxury not afforded to peasants. And it was the recipe of the peasants that would live on to be served in restaurants and homes across the modern world, not his. His was just an adapted version of a much older recipe eaten by illiterate peasants for hundreds, perhaps even thousands of years. In fact, Mujuddara is reputed to be a derivative of the mess of pottage Jacob used to purchase Esau's birthright in the book of Genesis. And it really is that good. There's a saying in the Eastern Arab world, a hungry man would be willing to sell his soul for a dish of Mujuddara. To this day, Middle Eastern Christians eat it during Lent. Sephardic and Middle Eastern Jews have dubbed it Esau's favorite and traditionally eat it hot on Thursdays and cold on Sundays. The dish is also popular among Druze of the Levant and is a staple in most Muslim homes. If anything can bring us together, it's food. Okay, now that you've had your history lesson, let's get to the recipe. They say this is a lentil dish, but the real star of this production is the onions. That's where all the flavor comes from. First, roughly slice 5 large onions and set one aside. In a large pan over low heat, add half a cup of cooking oil, 4 of your sliced onions, 1 tablespoon of salt, and 1 tablespoon of pepper. You're going to let them cook for 1 hour, stirring occasionally. About 20 minutes in, the onions will have reduced in size by half and will be starting to stick to the pan. Now you can add an optional tablespoon of sumac if you like and mix well. Continue to let them cook for another 40 minutes, stirring occasionally. At this point, while the onions are cooking, put a large pot over high heat and add 6 cups of water and half a cup of lentils. Once they come to a boil, reduce the heat to low and we won't mess with them again until the onions are done. Okay, so it's been an hour and you've been cooking your onions, occasionally stirring them while your lentils and water sit on low heat. Some of the onions are translucent, some of them are caramelized, some of them are charred, and some of them are just straight up burnt. We've got a plethora of onion flavors here, but the most important flavor is stuck to the bottom of the pan. So we're going to cut off the heat and add 1 cup of water and vigorously scrape the bottom of the pan until all that deliciousness is mixing into our burnt onion water concoction. Once you've got the pan nice and scraped, add it to your pot. Now add 1 cup of number 4 bulgur, also called number 4 cracked wheat. Turn the heat back up to high and let it come to a boil. Bulgur comes in one of 4 grades: fine, number 1, medium, number 2, coarse, number 3, and very coarse, number 4. The different grinds are used for specific types of dishes. Pilafs and stews are made with medium, coarse, or very coarse bulgur, while recipes like tabbouleh and kibbeh call for fine. Once it starts to boil, cover it and let it cook for 30 minutes, stirring every 10 minutes. While it's cooking, heat a pan on high heat for 2 minutes. Then add half a cup of oil and let it heat for 30 seconds. Now add that last onion that we set aside earlier and season it with salt and pepper. Don't stir it for 10 minutes, just let it sit. Now it's been 10 minutes and they're starting to burn. You want to start stirring them. After 5 minutes of stirring, they should be nice and charred. Cut off the heat, transfer them to a plate with a couple of paper towels, and set aside. After 30 minutes of cooking, the Mujuddara should be ready to serve. Garnish with lemon, link to that video in the description, and one should be popping up right now as well. I also like to garnish it with a little bit of sumac and parsley. And last but not least, are fried onions. This dish might not look like much, but it is so delicious. The combination of caramelized onions with the charred onions, with the burned onions, with the fried onions. I can totally understand why Esau sold his birthright for this stuff. Thanks for watching, everyone. Goodbye, good night, and as always, bah humbug.